we wanted to do something different in the image and kind of really bring the PureView name that has been the standard for imaging at Nokia before. Wanted to bring that back, and while many of the competition, they're doing multi-camera setups these days, but many of those devices are only leveraging 2 cameras maximum at the same time. While our device, we always shoot with 5 cameras, so we can capture a lot more data, a lot more light, and that means a lot more detail and dynamic range. We've got a bit of a different setup here too. So we got 2 cameras that are shoot in color, and 3 cameras which are positioned to the sides, which actually shoot black and white, so monochrome. And that allows us to capture a lot more light compared to just having like certain different sensors available. So we can actually capture up to 10 times as much light as one RGB sensor could do. And that just means more light, means, as I said, more detail and more of that dynamic range that we can then benefit in the photos. We can also create a depth map, which is up to 1,200 layers, and we can actually move throughout that depth map with ease, and I can show you some things from that just now.
Okay, so that was the camera. And tell me, are there any other useful features in this phone?
So the camera is the really big thing. We've kind of designed this straight out of the labs. It's like to the hands of the photo enthusiasts and like the cutting edge technology lovers around the world. And it's the camera is the big deal. Like you can get the best pictures with this device and the most dynamic range. It's actually something that for a photographer that would use like a DSLR camera, this would probably be the choice, so that they could actually leave it in the backpack every now and then and shoot with this phone. You can shoot raw DNG files. You can edit them right on the phone with Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, and could just, if you're a photographer, you can send it to your agency or send it to a newspaper and just get everything done with right on the spot when you're standing on a mountaintop or whatever you want to do.
Okay, so who you were partnering with creating this phone?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. So as you know, HMD, we've got a partnership model, and we're partnering with, of course, Google for the pure Android 1 version that we have here. We're running the latest version of Android 9 Pie. But for the camera setup, we've been partnering with Zeiss. You see the brand here. So we've actually all the 5 cameras are using Zeiss optics, and then we've partnered up with Light. So the Light guys have been here demoing too, and they've kind of come up with the technology of fusing those 5 images into one and getting the best out of that.
So when would this device be in stock?
It will be available very soon, and we've got the global average price of $699. So it's very affordable. We kind of want to price it so that it's available for most people who want it, and it's not out of reach of most parts of the world.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is just a quick demonstration of the refocus ability. So this is one I shot here in Barcelona the other day, and it's not edited. This is just a JPEG. This one is in the bokeh mode. So you go in. This is in Google Photos at the moment. So preloads with depth, and you can change the degree of depth. And then that little circle is your focus point. And if you look in the background here, you'll see it gets more out of focus and then comes into sharpness. So add depth, and then there's a second drop-down menu where you can refine that even further. So you can pick your focus point, or you can even just drag it all the way around. And if you look at the quality of that background, it's going to change a little bit as that focus point moves. And then you can also add a foreground blur to the image and really center in around a hyperfocal distance. So this is like a lot more like a camera optic, and has that image quality that is more traditionally associated with like optical bokeh. But what's awesome is you can keep refocusing and keep changing the point. This one I shot leaving here last night. The DNG is 32. And yeah, the JPEG is, yeah. I'm using the Pro mode a lot because in there I don't have to swipe through the menus. I can set my exposure to a daylight white balance, and there's a little carousel from different color temperatures. And I like to, for color saturation, I like to underexpose. So a lot of my pictures will be dark. So, but a cool thing in here is you don't have to go to the bokeh mode directly. So this mode is dedicated for the depth effect, and it's going to try to autofocus on faces. And in the Pro mode, I can still, in Pro and Photo mode, I can still enable the depth on or off. So I like to use one menu because I like to adjust exposure and color temperature. So I leave the depth on in the Pro mode, and then I can choose where I want my focus point to be.
So what about the direct monochrome pictures?
That's actually my favorite mode on this device. And so in all other modes except for monochrome, we're using all 5 cameras or all 5 sensors to create the image. So these are just the native monochrome modules, which I believe is that one, and the one on the top. The preview for all modes is the center module. So ironically, we're looking through a color module, but it will activate only those monochrome sensors. And I must have that on another device. I have quite a lot of monochrome photos. There we go. See if I have... It says Mickey, but there you are. I shot these. So what's awesome about this for me as a photographer is, and you can edit all these directly, and you can create DNGs of these. You can edit them in Lightroom Mobile, and all of these were done entirely on the device. And so that being the case, it's kind of hard to do that normally. And thankfully, these images have so much information in them. There's 4 or 5 stops of highlights and midtones in a cell phone image, which is great. But it may be difficult to see on another lens. But if you look here, where the edge of this wall, there's very dark gray. And then there's a transition into black. And if you're looking at it from far away, you can still make that out. And so there is still detail in those shadows. And, based on how bright your device is, it'll change. I believe the dynamic range is 12. Can't remember the decimal point. I'm going to say it's a little more than 12. Yeah. But what's great about the strictly monochrome mode is, I'm afraid I must have not downloaded these sufficiently, but just the detail, the really clean detail, from foreground to background is, to me, it's very impressive. So we're still a market average for a full frame. It's in the very high 13s. It's really around 14. And then if your bar is like film at around 15 stops. Dynamic range scenes on these are from shadow to highlight. I'm really happy with the monochrome mode.